Alright, hello everyone! Welcome back to Drawing a Blank Live! We are back this week. Hello! We're back this week to kind of continue where we left off last time. First things first, I haven't really started drawing it all today yet, so I am going to do a little bit of what I did last time and do some warm-ups. Sometimes I just like to scribble a little bit beforehand as part of my warm-up. Alright, anyway, let's work on drawing some of those circles we talked about last time. Remembering to draw from the shoulder and not from the wrist. Draw some shapes. Won't spend a whole lot of time on this, just getting warmed up. Give everybody time to settle in. As you can see, I've already pulled up some references that I'll be using. Oh yeah, everybody please do not talk about the new Wings of Fire book, Dragon Slayer. Yeah, Yoshi, if you see anybody talking about Dragon Slayer, just go ahead and put them on timeout, because, yeah, no talking about Dragon Slayer. That book just came out this week. Give everybody time to read it. Alright. Well, now that I've had time to warm up just a little bit, let's talk a little about references. Last week we started using references to do gesture drawings. And like I said then, gesture drawings is really great to do to help you become better at picking out shapes when you're looking at photos. It'll help your drawing skills immensely. We're kind of going to do the same thing when we look at references. And I know y'all really wanted to do some cats and some dragons, so that's what we're going to do this week. So, I went ahead before the stream started and picked out some pictures that I think will help us draw some cats and draw some dragons. Now, the trick when you are using reference, I see a lot of people who pick reference and they're like, oh yeah, I want to draw this. But then they don't know what to do with the picture once they have it. What it is that they need to be looking for to use it as reference. So let's start with something like this tiger. You know, when I look at something like this, it's a lot like when I'm looking at doing my gesture drawing. I'm looking at the shapes. You know, and you've got this triangle shape here where you can see like where these elbows intersect, and then like the shoulder here comes up, and it's just like this long rounded triangle with this kind of rounded square shape in the middle where his face is. So let's draw some of that. I yet again have a very big canvas. It's 20 inches by 20 inches. So I'm just going to go to a smaller part of the canvas here to work. I've got another big brush that I'm using to just get down the shapes that I want to get down. So that shoulder is like right here. And the other one is way up here. And that head fits right inside. Actually, what's great about this shape is then it also kind of gives you this nice line of action because you can see the weight of where the tiger is putting that weight down on this paw as this other one is up in the air. Need a bit more space here. And this is just going kind of back into doing gesture drawing for a little bit. Oh, I love that you can see how his paw is flipped up here. That's something that's very important if you are going to be animating this, is having that flip of the paw up. We're just getting the broad strokes in here. Don't want to spend a lot of time getting all the details. And just like that. And that, it would be kind of where I would stop if this was just a gesture drawing. But let's say I want to use this now as reference for my own style. Well, it's very much the same kind of thing. You know, I've got the pose here and everything. Let's switch over to this picture of my cat, Peridot. Oh, cutie. So, Peridot is actually a character in Star Clan Battles. I have made her a character named Whitebelly. So, what's great about using your own cats as reference is you can take as many pictures of them as you want. Grab a even bigger brush here. I'm just going to block out her shape. Just like this. And one thing you might notice is that when you're using reference, it's like, oh, well, this is a little bit more, you know, blobby than like how I would want my art style to look. So the important thing is to be able to look at reference and then learn how to use it so that you're getting the anatomy correct. You're looking at things with like a critical eye, but then also take that reference and change it into something more appealing. So we kind of have our pose here. Let's get this a little bit more accurate. Something like that. Why, hi, Ophi. How are you today? I got another cat coming to join the fun. Yes, I am done reading Dragon Slayer, but nobody talk about Dragon Slayer in the chat. So, I've got my shape blocked out from looking at reference. And now I'm going to go in. We'll just put this down a lower opacity. We'll go down into this, and now I'm going to kind of clean up the shape. I want this to more so fit my style. So we're going to kind of use this pose as a bouncing off point. To reimagine White Belly in. Not feeling this brush. Okay, here we go. I think I'm going to change up where her head is looking completely. Might benefit me here, because I want to change up where her head is looking, might benefit me to go find some other reference where her face is looking in the direction I have it here. But you also don't have to do that. Sometimes you just need reference for a specific thing. You don't need to use it for every single little thing. I'm going to change her head looking this way. And like I said before, this body shape, this is great reference because I can see the foreshortened parts of her body here. But I kind of want to tighten up all this blobbiness. And make my cat look a little bit more like a warrior. So she's got some more sharper angles going on. But I can see that like her shoulder blade, you know, even through all the fluffy, soft kitty pet fur, I could still see where her shoulder blade is. We're gonna, it's a little bigger. There we go. We're gonna put her back here. As you can see, like, another thing I changed from the reference to my drawing is I gave her a smaller neck just to help give the general silhouette of the shape more definition, so that you can see the difference between where her head is and where her body is. And then we're going to stick to this kind of general leg shape here in the back. And then we got this nice foreshortened paw here. Which, in order to get a nice cartoony effect, I'm going to make it much smaller than it is in real life. Kind of just like that. Then erase that line because I don't need it anymore. And although we can't see where this other paw is, what I'm going to do is just kind of tuck it underneath her. Actually, instead of doing that, let's just put her tail in here. And one thing you'll notice when you start using reference and you get good at using reference is you'll notice a big improvement on your shapes and just how much better using reference is as compared to not using reference. Like, I've been drawing cats for a really, really long time, but nothing beats using reference as opposed to not using reference. When I don't use reference, you can tell. You can tell I'm not using reference because, I'll do a more generic pose. A cat's maybe just standing or sitting, something I've drawn a million times before. But then when I do use reference, I get poses like this. And this is not something that, I would probably come up with in my brain without using reference. And that's because using reference is very important. It's very, even if you can imagine something with your brain, being able to see it right there in front of you is different than just imagining it. And there's no shame at all in using these tools to make your art better. Everybody should use reference. I always think there's an amusing difference too whenever I use a cat based on a cat I've seen in real life for my OCs versus ones that I don't. Because, here you can see White Belly, or my cat Peridot, has, pretty realistic features, but cats that I make up completely will usually be a bit more cartoony. And there's nothing wrong with either of those, whatever floats your boat. But there is a difference between the two. Let's clean up that shape just a little bit more. And something like that. Not particularly happy with this muzzle shape. Still a bit too quote-unquote realistic for me. It's still a bit too big. I want to shrink it down a little bit. There we go. We mentioned last time, but flipping your canvas also helps a lot. And just erase some of these extra lines here we don't need. There we go. using this as reference, we drew this. And, you know, sometimes I see a lot of people get stuck on, oh, I'm using reference, I have to draw it exactly like the reference. And no, you don't. If you're doing gesture drawing, you know, you are looking to get it very close to what it is you're looking at. That's the point. You're trying to stop yourself from just drawing what comes to mind, and you're trying to actually see what it is you're observing and draw that. But when it comes to using the reference to create your own art, it's more so about how can I use this tool, this visual aid, to help me make what I want to draw. So it's not about finding something that, you know, oh, well, this reference isn't quite what I'm thinking of, you know, like the pose isn't quite right. That's all right. Reference is just a good place to start. You know, you don't need to use this exactly. Even something where, you know, let's take this. This is a super cute photo, but if I'm going to take this and use it as reference, there's actually some things about it that I would not want to replicate using in a piece of art. Like, take this pose, for example. I think that the length of his little kitty arms looks kind of awkward, and I wouldn't actually want that in my piece. Also, the fact that his little back feet are basically flat on the ground is kind of unappealing and doesn't really make for good flow. And the fact that his tail kind of like bends out here, it looks a little awkward. So if I was translating this to my own art, what I would probably do is want to change the pose, but get the basic gist of it. So I'm using it as a reference. Gonna block out the shape really quick. Let's grab a bigger brush. Make this a little bigger. Actually, too big. Okay. The great thing about art is that you draw from life, but what's better is that you can make life look even more appealing in art. You aren't stuck to the confines of reality. If art was just about making things look realistic and making things look exactly like how we see them, then we would have peaked with photography, you know? There wouldn't be any better art than photography, but I don't think most of us here would agree with that, you know? So this is going to be very loose. See, and I think it's partly this paw makes this look weird. I think I'm going to bend it down just a little bit more. Something like this. And then let's get those back leggies up just a little bit. Get this tail like that. See, and I'm kind of in between thinking of two different poses for this. You can see that in this photo, he's kind of putting his weight back here. But I think in order to make this more appealing, it should either be something like this, or something where he's just like I would have to redo the tail for this. He's like way up like this. And really stretching. Like that. But I kind of like just the very... I like this. Let's go back to how it was. Just like that. And then his other back leg would be over here. Something like that. And then I could draw from that. And of course, I'm not trying to say realistic art is bad. The whole point of this is that I am looking at reference to make my art more realistic. But it's being able to take that realism and then turn it into something even better that makes something really good art. So now, what if we're trying to apply this to dragons? Go ahead and get rid of this stuff. And let's see, what other references did I pull up? I got this little kitten, which I thought was fun. It was cute. You know what, let's actually use the little kitten. Maybe we'll try and do like a baby dragon based on this kitten. So, dragons are giant lizards, obviously, but they're also fantasy creatures. So, finding reference for dragons can be pretty difficult. That's why earlier I was talking about, you know, using reference as your jumping off point, but you don't necessarily need to use it 100%. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this reference to look at it and go, well, what if baby dragons were kind of like kittens? So let's zoom in here. I think one of the most important things is to get this belly in. So we're going to use that as our starting off point. And I like to imagine dragons with a little bit more rounded backs. So we'll do this. That rounded belly shape. And then that little neck and big head. I also have an actual lizard picture here. Since dragons are lizards, it only makes sense to also use lizards as a base. And then these stumpy legs. This pose actually isn't very interesting. It's actually so weird how, like, for a kitten, this is a very, like, standard, serious kind of pose. It's not, you know, very childlike or goofy. It's alright, though. We'll just use our reference. More so how it looks. And then we'll go from there. I also like the stubbiness of kitten tails, so we'll add that to our dragon here. And of course, their dragon, they gotta have wings. Now, I'm gonna take a second here. I'm gonna look up bat wings. See if I can find a nice reference of a bat. Oh, bats are cute. Not really finding what I want, but that's alright. I am still looking at the wings anatomy in general, and that's on my second screen, so I'll just use that as I draw here. Just block out our shape. This is very simplified, but we'll just go with it. And now one thing that I think is probably, you know, I do like using cats as kind of like a base. For drawing dragons, just because I'm very familiar with cats, and I like imagining dragons moving kind of cat-like. But I think one of the big things that is a difference between the dragons and the cats, especially with baby dragons, is probably these legs. So I'm not very happy with these. We'll get rid of them. And the legs, especially when they're babies, I imagine to be quite a bit more lizard-like. So they're more out, they're more widespread, more stumpy. And these will be very rough, because again, here, now I'm not using reference. We'll do something like this. Yeah, I like that. And then the other wing, usually what I do, the wing that's behind the dragon, I usually just kind of like to grab a different layer and draw it like this. That way it doesn't muddy up my silhouette at all. Something like that. And now, let's go back in. Let's kind of decide who this is. I'm kind of thinking Clay. So, let's make his face nice and large. Give him that armored head look. Imagine their horns when they're babies are very short. Just little spoops. Something like that. And then let's go ahead and turn that down a little bit. And do the same thing we did with White Belly, where we just kind of draw over this now. And use this as our base. Get my smaller brush. Nice big eyes. Round cheeks. Big ears. Big cow ears. I need to pull up my own reference of Clay. Remember what he looks like. Where is he? That's an old one. There he is. Oh, I love Clay. He's such a sweetie. There we go. Let's make those horns even stumpier. Oh, so cute. A big wide neck. Let's get these kind of stumpy legs in. This is going to be very quick and fast because we do not have a lot of time, because after this stream at 3 o'clock, Words on Warriors starts over on Avalon's channel. So if you guys want to listen to us talk about Warriors, be sure to head on over there after this stream. For a good time. Also, whenever drawing babies, I like to make him a little bow-legged, so his little feet are sticking inward. His little Pete's. Get these dragon leggies in. And again, I'm just doing this real quick. Yeah, I don't want to spend too long on this, so it'll be a little messy. Yeah, we'll just stick with that for now. Just like that. Make sure that's stumpy too. Little wing claw. There we go, something like that. And that all just comes from, you know, using this as reference. We take the parts of the reference that we like, we apply it to our drawing, and we go from there. And something like that. Yeah. Baby clay. So now that I finished that, I guess I want to open up the next 10 minutes or so for any questions, because I want to make sure that I give plenty of time for everybody to head over to Words on Warriors after this. But do you guys have any reference or any questions about using reference that you would like to ask? Because I know this is one that people have asked me to do for a really long time, is how to use reference. And I know reference can be something that is hard to get used to, is kind of tricky, but I hope this was I hope this was at least a little helpful. Dragons are tricky for sitting down. Yet again, because dragons are fictional creatures, we don't have reference for this kind of thing. And I personally waver quite a bit between using big cat reference and lizards, because like especially in the art of the books themselves, like the art that is in the books themselves, they show to have more kind of cat-like bodies. So in that case, they would sit kind of like, this, with the tail off to the side. However, that's kind of awkward for a dragon. So you could also argue that they kind of like sit more like a lizard, in that, their back would be kind of like this, and their lizard legs would just kind of like, huh. I don't know lizards as well, so alright, this tail's incorrect. A lizard would sit probably more like this. And not up so much. Hopefully this makes sense. Where there's not like with a cat, they kind of have like this break in the spine here, where the tail is kind of like more flexible with the body, whereas with a lizard, it's more of just like a continuation of their long snaky body. So they kind of swap between those two sitting positions in the graphic novels. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I am also swapping between these two kinds of styles. Tips for good ears: draw lots of ears. A lot of my tips for this kind of stuff would be draw it over and over until you understand it. How do you not get frustrated on the perspective of the reference? If you have reference that is frustrating you, it might be because you're trying to make it look like what you're seeing in your mind, and not quite seeing what is in the reference. So I would try to take a step back from your drawing, come back, look at the reference, and really see what is going on in the reference. See how, the negative space, like how much negative space is in between 2 points. Look for, well, what does the reference have that I'm not quite getting? Reference is absolutely not cheating. Reference is a tool. In fact, it's such a good tool that if you do not use reference, you are not being a good artist. It's like if somebody said, well, using pencils is cheating. It's not cheating. It's just a common tool most people should use. Yeah, exactly. Lizards don't really sit. They just kind of like... They already are so low to the ground, I mean, I've already said that as far as animal references go for species in Wings of Fire, you know, I would look at bats, I would look at cats, I would look at lizards. And then as far as, you know, like, what kind of big cats? Any. Any, because I don't like thinking of the tribes as different species of animals, because I think that limits what kind of body types you can use for your reference. You're saying, like, you know, oh, well, mudwings are tigers. Well, you know, what if you have a really scrawny mudwing, though? You know, so maybe you want to use something more like a cheetah for a reference, for a scrawny mudwing. You know, like, I don't think that you should limit body types to a specific kind of animal trait, you know? The stream for Words on Warriors, not Wings on Warriors, will be over on Avalon's channel. Let me grab the link for that really quick. Muzzles, I saw a really great tip on muzzles years ago, and I've basically used it ever since. Is that, you know, if here's your head, the muzzle is just like another square or another circle next to the head. You know, it's not exactly a box, but it's kind of like a box. And then from the front, you know, it's just there. I know that's very unhelpful advice, but, you know. I usually just kind of do the second circle thing on the face. You know, I do more circles for eyes. I use a lot of circles when I draw. Just for plopping down my shapes. Shapes. Will there be broken code talk on Words on Warriors? I don't think so. Because there hasn't really been any new information, other than, you know, we might bring it up and we might chat about it. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be the prime discussion. But yes, everyone, head on over here for Wings on Warriors, happening soon.
Words
on Warriors, happening soon. Sorry, I've got Wings of Fire on my brain. Alright, yeah, I think if everybody's good, we're going to go ahead and end the stream here. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed these live drawing of blanks. Next week, I don't know. I don't know what we'll be doing. We'll probably be back to a normal drawing a blank. These live ones have been fun, but I think it'll be time to go back to our regularly scheduled programming. But if you guys like these live studies, we could probably do more of them in the future. So thank you guys so much for coming. I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye!